Hi YouTube, it's Bethany from Madeline Jean Antiques and Restoration. In this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about a home DIY gardening. That's what we're going to go into in this video. If you have been following me for a while, thank you so much. If you're new here to my channel, I mostly talk about refinishing old and vintage furniture, but I do some home improvement projects, and I'm starting to get into gardening. Yeah, like I need more on my plate, but I'm an overachiever. That's who I am at my soul. I just love learning new things, and I learned something new in the last 8 weeks. I grew some vegetable plants from seeds indoors here in New Hampshire. This is where I did this. And I'm going to share with you the things I wish I knew beforehand. I learned a lot here in the last 8 weeks. I started growing seeds indoors upstairs. I think it was around the first week in April. It's now May 31st here in New Hampshire. I'm in Rochester, New Hampshire. If you look it up on a map, it's kind of like the southern portion of New Hampshire. We're kind of on the coast side. If you're new to gardening, you're going to hear things like zones. What zone are you in? You need to know what zone you're in so you know what crops grow best, when to plant accordingly, when to know when your last frost usually happens, and when you get the thumbs up, the go ahead to take your plants, your seedlings that you've grown indoors, when you can bring them outside and place them in your garden beds. So I've learned a lot in the last 8 weeks, and I thought, if I did a video on the 5, I would say the key points that I've learned, what worked and what didn't work when it comes to growing seedlings indoors, this is what I would say. So come with me, we're going to go upstairs and I'm going to share with you those 5 things that I think that were most beneficial for me to learn how to do this successfully. Let's go, come on. Okay, I would say the first, number 1, beneficial thing that I learned is to keep a garden journal. Now, I know that kind of sounds nerdy. I know it sounds like a lot of work, but if you do this, it'll help you to stay on task, and it'll help you learn what's working and what's not working. And I just got one of these. This is all at the dollar store. I try to keep things on the cheap here. So what I did is, it was April 11th. April 11th is when I planted my seeds. And I planted way too much. You're gonna see my garden beds go, Bethany, you're gonna have to learn how to can. So that'll be my next adventure. So any of you who are following me here, if you've canned tomatoes and pickled cucumbers, yeah, stay tuned because we're gonna dive into that in a little bit. So I just kept notes here of everything when I planted them. I labeled things. That's another thing, label, especially if you're doing different varieties. Like I did 3 different varieties of tomatoes, 3 different varieties of cucumbers, and then I just did 1 variety of watermelon. So that's what I started with seedlings indoors. Research as well. So this is my number 1, I guess, advice for you. If you're gonna start by growing seedlings indoors, do your research, read up on this. It is going to take some time, it's going to take some patience, and you're really going to have a passion for this. This isn't just like dropping seeds in dirt and going, ooh, I hope it grows. The more you know, the more you'll have a successful crop, so to speak. So I kept a journal on what was working, what wasn't working. I also joined a few gardening Facebook groups. These were so beneficial to me because people would say, oh, my tomato plants are all wilting. My tomato plants are turning yellow. What does this mean? And you have people in there that have been gardening for years and years, and their information is so vital. The advice that they were giving, I'm like, aha, I need to do that. No, I need to stay away from that. So being on those Facebook groups was so helpful for me, and it helped me get to my number 2 piece of advice that worked for me, was learning that I needed to get artificial growing lights and an oscillating fan going on my tomatoes and my cucumbers. I did not know this. So when I first started out, I was like, why do people have growing lights? It does help. I'm gonna throw up a few pictures of the setup that I had here in my kitchen. I have a great sliding door window here, and I get a lot of beautiful natural light coming in, so I figured that was the warmest spot in my house. You're gonna have to figure this out for yourselves. If you live in an apartment house or wherever, where are your seedlings gonna grow the best? So that was the area that I put my seedlings, but I also found out through these Facebook groups, you really do need growing lights and you need an oscillating fan. You need that oscillating fan because it's going to stiffen up the stems of your plants and get them ready for when they have to go outside. You really need that oscillating fan to get them used to the wind blowing on them, and it'll harden them up. So definitely get yourself some growing lights and get yourself an oscillating fan. Okay, the third piece of advice I would have given to myself before growing seedlings indoors. So this is the area where I placed a shelving unit that I got off Amazon, and I went cheap. So some areas and some things you can go cheap. This one I would not go cheap. So I bought a cheap, it was like a 4-tier shelf. It's now on my deck. I'll show it to you. But it's made out of plastic, and one of the wheels on the bottom ended up breaking, and it's just flimsy. And I got it for $45, and I should have had metal shelving. That's what I think would work better when growing seedlings indoors, because they're gonna get heavier and heavier, and these plants, these tomato plants especially, they just there's a lot of dirt here in a solo cup, and if you've got like 20 of these going on, you need something sturdy. So next year I'm going to invest in maybe like a baker's rack and have wheels on it. That way I can wheel it around easily and have that instead, because what I had did not work. So I'm gonna throw up a few photos there. This is the setup I had. I thought this would be sufficient. It was not. So invest in a good area or like a mini greenhouse indoors. Just make sure it's sturdy. Read the reviews online. Mine broke. It just was not a good thing. So that's one thing I would invest better in, is a shelving unit where to grow my seedlings indoors. Okay, my number 4 thing that I learned that this was the best thing for growing my seedlings indoors. I learned partly through that what I was using was not working because my plants were dying. And I found out the reason why. And how did I find out? Go back to my Facebook groups. Join those gardening groups. I'm telling you, they work. So what I originally started off with, I'm going to show you here. I got those peat moss little tablets. You let them soak in water, and then you put the seeds in, and I had it all nice and labeled. You'll see here in the photos I'm gonna put up here. And I thought, okay, I'm all set. And that worked. They were sprouting, they were doing well. And then once they got taller, I transferred them into these recyclable peat moss type of cups. And then I noticed all this mold growing around those cups. And what was happening was every time I would water them, it's like those containers were taking all the water. My soil was drying out. Basically, I was killing the plants that I was growing because all of the water was going into those containers and not into the plants and feeding the plants. As soon as I removed those, they literally just fell apart, and I placed everything in solo cups. My plants thrived. So I was trying to stay away from plastic. I was trying to be all natural here, but it didn't work for me. So I would love to hear other people, other gardeners, if you've grown seeds indoors, what are the containers that you've put them in? What worked for me are the red solo cups. It saved all of my plants. I was so in fear that I killed all of my tomato plants because they looked horrible, all wilted. And then once I transferred them to the solo cups, I planted more tomato plants because I was afraid they weren't going to thrive again. They ended up thriving again. And I have 30 tomato plants planted outside in my garden. I'm gonna show you. You're gonna be like, why did you do that? Why did you plant so many? Well, I thought I lost them all and I started over again. No, they all thrived. And you'll see here, I planted some marigolds, and I used DIXIE cups as well. So this is what I used to grow my seedlings, and they really thrived. So as much as I didn't want to go with cups and I was doing the other ones, it just wasn't working for me. So for me, solo cups were the way to go to grow my seedlings. Okay, and my 5th tip of the best thing that I can recommend for growing seedlings indoors is your supplies. So like I mentioned before, I'm pretty cheap. So I got a lot of my supplies at the dollar store, especially popsicle sticks. I would get those at the dollar store. They even have these larger ones, and this will help you as your plants start to grow. So this is a beefsteak tomato plant. You can see here, I just stapled 2 together to help support the tomato plant, and that worked really well for me. So I would tell you, you'll definitely need like sticks of some support. So the dollar store has those. Get this supporting ribbon. This is great stuff. I got this at Lowe's, pretty cheap, or was it Walmart? One of those. So what you'll do is you'll wrap this around your plant once it gets taller and staple it. And the ribbon is really delicate. You don't want to use like wire or anything really, I would say, that could cut into your stem and damage the plant. So they're pretty fragile. So you'll want to use that or twine. I thought that twine would take too long with tying it. So this was really fast and easy. So the ribbon came in handy. Also, get yourself a pair of really good little snipper cutters. These things are awesome. So you're gonna have to snip away like dead leaves, especially when you're growing tomato plants. You might have 3 come up in the same pod and you have to execute some. I hate using that word. You have to kill them off, basically. You can only have like 1 tomato plant stem coming through. Otherwise, the other ones steal the nutrients from the strongest one. So you got to get in there and snip them away. And these are really great. They have a sharp tip and you can really get into those areas and snip away dead leaves and stuff like that. So this has come in handy very much. A spritzer, pretty obvious, but when you have small seedlings, you aren't going to be dumping out of a big, spout. So you want something that you can sprit the leaves, or not the leaves, the seeds with. And I found this one to be very handy. I don't know where I got this. Probably Walmart or Lowe's in the gardening section. I also got some, it's called Super Thrive Plant Vitamins for All Plants. So it says it builds plant vigor. I love the marketing, they just use these words, yeah, vigor. For all stages of plant growth. So I was using this like every 2 to 3 days. I'm reading the directions here. So I was spraying once my seedlings started to sprout. I started spraying these to give them extra vitamins, and it seems to have helped. It worked just fine. Now that my plants are in my garden beds, which I'm going to show you here shortly, I got myself this. This is so important. So I did, if you want to technically call it, my very first garden 2 years ago here at my house. And basically, I was pretty lazy. I can admit it when it came to gardening. I'm like, oh, I'm just going to buy tomato plants, cucumber plants, squash, and I'm just going to throw it in dirt. I did a lasagna method with my gardening beds, which was, I guess that was pretty advanced for a beginner gardener. I did the lasagna method, layered my beds, but I really didn't check the pH level or the moisture level in my soil. I literally was just winging it, and I didn't have a very bountiful crop of vegetables, and it's my fault. So this year I thought, you know what, I'm gonna do it right. I'm gonna grow seedlings indoors. I'm going all in, and that's what I've done here. And so I got this pH moisture meter, and I did get this at Lowe's. This has been so helpful. You stick this in the soil, let it wait a minute, and it'll read for you. You got to switch it on to moist. It'll read the water level, where you are in the soil, whether it's moist, wet, or dry. And it'll let you know, do you need to water more, or are you good for the day? Also, it'll check the pH level in your soil, let you know if it's acidic or if it's more alkaline or if you need to add lime. These are all things that I'm learning that your soil needs to be just like in this sweet spot for your plants to grow well. So that's the next thing that I would say I wish I kind of had a more handle on, all the supplies that I would need. So gardening, it's fun. I enjoy it. It's therapeutic for me. I love working with my hands, whether I'm refinishing furniture or whether I'm trying to grow tomato plants and cucumbers and watermelons. I really enjoy this, and I'm learning a lot, like beefsteak tomato plants have the best root system. Oh my Lord. I'm also growing jelly bean tomato plants, and their root system is kind of weak. Like, they came out of the solo cup and it kind of crumbled. So I'm learning like which tomato plants are really hardy, which cucumber plants are really hardy, which ones aren't, building trellises, what's the best way to grow crops. So this Oh my gosh, you can just go down a rabbit trail of like all the plants, all the do's and don'ts, what plants are compatible with other plants in a garden bed, which ones will fight each other for nutrients. It's fascinating to me. So you need to have fun. Overall, you need to have fun while doing this. Don't bite off more than you can chew. Think about it. Think about, okay, what am I growing this year? What would I actually eat? And we go through a lot of tomatoes here. We go through a lot of cucumbers here. So we thought, let's just grow, those are two things I know that we'll eat a lot. And then we're doing sugar baby watermelons. We're gonna try that. I read that those are like the sweetest of the watermelons and they're smaller. So think like cantaloupe size. I'm like, okay, we'll try that. Then I'm going to be planting directly in the ground in like, I should have done it maybe a little bit ago, but it's okay, it's okay. I'm doing corn, carrots, and string beans, yes. So those are the things I'll be planting, and I'll show you some pallet garden beds that we made. And when I say we, I have had an enormous amount of help from my boyfriend here, very much. So I can't say this is all on me. I couldn't do all of this by myself, plus do everything else in my world. So he's been very helpful. He's never grown a garden ever in his life, so he's having a lot of fun as well. And we kind of joke that he's like my grunt boy right now. So he built an awesome cucumber trellis. I showed him a picture, like, can you do this? And so he's been taking materials. We've taken a portion of my deck off. I've been meaning to make my deck smaller. It's too big for this house. And so we're recycling all the wood materials I'm going to show you right now of my garden. Everything's recyclable. So we're trying not to spend money if we don't have to, and just use what we have around my house here and make garden beds and trellises and give this a shot. So I'm gonna quit rambling. I have a tendency to just chat. I hope this video has been informative to you out there if you're starting to grow seedlings indoors. So those are my best tips, my 5 best tips when it comes to doing that. So let's get outside. I'm gonna show you my garden. Okay guys, first things first, this is the rickety indoor greenhouse that I bought for $45 off Amazon. That wasn't the best purchase for me because it's pretty rickety. So I moved it outdoors here, and it's just keeping all of my garden supplies. So I'm gonna still use it as long as it'll keep standing. But one of the wheels broke off the back and part of the shelving has been duct taped. So yeah, definitely make a better purchase than I did when it comes to that. Okay, you guys, this is the awesome cucumber trellis that we built. So these right here, these slats on the top, are actually from a portion of my deck here, the railing. So we just recycled those, put some eye hooks on them, got some garden twine, brought them down, and there's our cucumbers. And so that way the cucumbers will grab onto that twine and grow. And yeah, we got a little owl there, our decoy owl. Keep some of the predators in the air away. Here's another view of the garden. So you can see I have 3 garden beds started. These are 8x4 gardens. So we have 16 cucumber plants here. And then in these 2 beds, we have 3 or 4 varieties, I forgot, of tomato plants. And there's 30 tomato plants. So yeah, I'm gonna have to learn how to can tomatoes, or I'm going to be eating a lot of tomatoes or gifting them to people. And then over here, we built some garden beds out of pallets. We are going to be putting watermelon in these, but we have to build a trellis. So we got some pallets and some leftover trellises. Those are kind of rickety from Lowe's that I bought a couple years ago. So we're going to be making a watermelon trellis here. We're putting string beans in here. I'm putting carrots in here, and then we're gonna put corn over here. And as you can see, I get a lot of gorgeous sun throughout the day in my yard. So this was the best place for my garden. And I'm getting there with my deck rehab. We're probably gonna be cutting off a little more here, putting some railings up. And then in this sandy section over here, when I first moved here, the previous owners had a hot tub, and it was not the nicest hot tub, so I gave it away free on Facebook Marketplace. And now downstairs I have a 10 by 12 cedar gazebo that needs to be put together that we're gonna put in this section here, and it has a nice metal roof. So yeah, so there you go. There's my garden. And hopefully it's gonna be successful and we're going to have a bountiful harvest. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey of growing seeds indoors. I hope you found this video inspiring and informative. If you enjoyed what you saw, please remember to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. By subscribing, you'll never miss out on new videos where I'll continue to bring you more fascinating refinishing furniture projects, home DIY tips, and even some gardening adventures. Don't forget to click that notification bell as well so you'll be the first to know when I upload a new video. If you guys have any questions or suggestions for future videos, please leave them in the comment section below. I love hearing from you and I'm always eager to provide helpful answers. Thank you once again for your support, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Happy refinishing, DIYing, and gardening!